seated and locking myself out.
Well, you know, the problem is you got this early, you got the youth club that screws everybody out. I just said youth club. But you know what, opening day is opening day. I'm sorry, it's just history. So anyways, we never knew nothing about equal. You're not lying. You remember last time I talked to you? You said you got all the information for you. No, yeah, you just, you know, we just. I know it's in your bed. I have tried. I've got issues that I have been heard from. I mean, I music where all we have. Now they put that there across the street. They tell me I can read the top states. I like to have that. The state says nothing to do. You see what you see the other day about what's going on with the lawsuit. Oh, Maryland. Plus they're working on it. Residential area should be industrial parks or something like that. So what we do the master planning is, they need to make sure that that's where they go. And that's why we have a master.
Time now is 7 o'clock. We're going to call our meeting to order. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
David Walker.
Here.
Herman Ferguson.
Here.
Jennifer Eden. Here. Kurt Schultz.
Here.
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
And Zach Tucker is absent.
I'd like to add one thing to the agenda. Item number 7, right-of-way tree cutting. And I'll entertain the motion.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is approval of the consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from December 21st, 2021. Clerk's warrants and bills, January 12th, 2022.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next, we move on to communications. We have 4 items on communications. We have the Livingston County Sheriff's Report dated December 31, 2021. The Planning Commission approved regular meeting and public hearing minutes August 10th, 2021. Planning Commission approved regular meeting minutes August 18th, 2021. Planning Commission meeting and public hearing synopsis January 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to receive and place communications 1 through 4 on file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next, we move on to public remarks. If anybody has any public remarks regarding tonight's agenda only, that's the time to speak, and then we'll have another public comment at the end of the meeting. So if anybody wants to speak about any agenda items, please come up to the podium. Yes, sir.
Jeff Cooper, and by the way, in your notes, it's Jeff Cooper, not Joe Cooper, from the last meeting. Regarding the Lake Urban residential planning commission, or planning thing, I want to remind the board that the applicant, in my opinion, has not met two of the criteria. Runyon Lake Road is not a primary road. And in the ordinances, it says shall be able to access from a primary road. It is a secondary road, local road. And he did not meet the upland acreage. So that's another reason that I think the board should object this. Along with all the environmental impacts that are going to come along with this, the endangered species that are out there. And I'm sure he will bring to light that type of stuff. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board. Thank you.
Does anybody else have public comment? Is that your background? Back there.
I was here, I think, back in November. Mike Kohler, on White Lake Road. Has anybody done a DNR study on this swamp area that he's trying to develop?
That will all be done during the planning commission review. All he's going for is a conceptual preliminary approval. It doesn't mean that we're approving him to go ahead and build it.
There's a start. What's going to happen? I can foresee what's going to happen here. And I'm sure DNR is going to allow him to take out the beaver dam. No problem. It's a nuisance animal. No problem. He's going to gain about 20 acres of dry land. Back in, what was it, 75 and 78, we had the massive snows, nor'easters. I don't know if you know the water table level at that point, when it melted off in the springtime. The house next to the river, right at White Lake Road, Betty Hockey owns that house now. Their basement was 2 inches deep. And it's not a basement, it's a floor, first floor level. It was 2 inches deep in water. What are they going to do with all that water? That little pond right there on Denton Creek, just before the new bridge was put in, used to be a beautiful, pristine little pond. And as the years went by, that erosion came through, you know what's going to happen on the lake? It's going to be ugly. There's way too much swamp back there to develop anything. The only thing he can develop that's dry is right off Runyon Lake Road, and like the gentleman said, that is not a main road. When the DNR study, I hope they do a real study. We have eagles back here. I live right there. We have eagles back here, Massasoit rattlesnakes, Michigan rattlers. You got the eastern box turtles back there. They're not a swamp living creature, but they do live on the edge of the swamps. They need that swamp area. Like the first time I was up here, I don't know, back in November, there's too much wetland back there to try that. You just can't. You can't relocate one area of water over here because you got to build there. Can't happen. You don't know. There's no bottom. There is no bottom. He's going to have fun. He wants to relocate the river on the north edge where, what is it? Hunts Hills, or Tyrone Development, Tyrone Hills, what is that?
Hills of Tyrone.
Yeah, by the high school,
Right.
across, coming back to the south. Right there where the river passes, right there. He wants to relocate that whole thing. Can't. That is marsh for 100 yards. That little lake, which is, we know it as Chatterson's Lake, little round lake there. It was sucked out from Marl for US 23 back in 57. That lake does not have a feed to that river. But for now it does because it's backed up by a beaver dam. back when I was growing up, there was a beaver dam there. We used to fish that lake all the time. It's just spring fed. There's no connection to that river. So it has nowhere to go. And when you get snow melt, it just floods that whole thing. I mean, it floods. And I know the gentleman that was here, Tyrone, last time I was here, he was mentioned, he lived right on that north border of that, where the river goes through there, right next to his property. I don't know how long he's been there, but it couldn't have been that long. He doesn't know the snow melt yet. He will know. It'll come up in his backyard. That's how deep it gets back there. I mean, it becomes one complete flooded plain from Heartland Road all the way to a damn near Runyon Lake Road. It can't be done. Future problems that are gonna develop out of this, Runyon Lake residents are gonna hate it. It's not gonna be good. The environmental impact is gonna be too great.
I can
It's not a
tell
good
you,
idea.
with all your concerns that you've addressed, that's why we send it to Environmental Great Lakes, DNR, DEQ, Drain Commissioner's Office, and they'll dictate the path.
Well, if they have any history, I mean, we've got climate change, excuse me. Climate change is constant. We used to have constant nor'easters. That's why we had the heavy snows of 75. I don't know if you were around here. You may have been still up in California, but we had some real deep snow, 20-foot drifts. Heartland Road was straight across, where it cuts through going uphill in the vent. It was straight across. We used to have some really good snows. It's coming back. The east side of the state used to be, the snowmobile side of the state. Not anymore, because the snows have gone to the west side, because of the northwest. Just, it's what I think.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you.
Next. Yes, sir.
Chris Ward, Hogan Road. I think planned unit development is a bad idea in general. I think you guys should do away with planned unit development. And I think to put 120 homes on the most pristine piece of property that you own, well, it's not a good idea. I think you could do something else other than that, but I think the roads are not going to meet. I don't know if that's a primary road or not, but and your master plan says everybody in the township wants to have this rural area. Why would you put 120 homes on a pristine property if it's supposed to be a rural area? Everybody kind of wants that. And I know that I worked on that Cider Creek up there, back behind Mueller's Orchard, and the Fenton Township turned that down. And everybody was against that. And it just doesn't seem like a very good idea to me. Well, I think it'd be better served up here on the Clyde Road corridor, where it's, more, kind of developed up that way. This, 25 years down the road, they're not making any more land. And they've got subdivisions everywhere. And you don't want this to look like a giant novi. We want a rural character. We don't want a Bloomfield Hills, novi, traffic everywhere. I think the planning is very crucial right now. You're right on the cusp of going one way or the other. And I think to be gentle with the environment, I think you should put that man on your advisory committee. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate all your time and all your effort that you guys are doing, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name's Dean Haas. I live in South End of Running Lake. We talk about environmental studies and stuff, and they did all those studies when they put the power lines in. And in the last 15 years, it's caused the entire south end of our lake to fill in with sediment runoff. After they claim they've done all the proper studies, they've tried to do sediment control. I've spent the last 6.5 years working with Eagle. I've got half of the cove re-cleaned up and re-drenched. I'm working on the other half. But it's proven these studies don't work. They said, well, there wasn't enough grade. Well, they finally did the proper studies and found there were the proper grades for the sediment coming down to fill that. Again, 15 years it took to fill in a full cove. I took out over 300,000 cubic yards of material and only got half of what needed to be done, removed from what used to be a beautiful lake area. I don't want to see that to happen on north end of our lake. And that's exactly what's gonna happen if you allow this to go in there. There's no way, I don't care what they do for trying to control the water level, to control the runoff. They're not gonna be able to do it. And it's gonna cause problems with our lake. And I'm here to tell you, Running Lake, RLI will fight this tooth and nail.
Anyone else? All right, means we have, go ahead, Scott.
Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. The gentleman was talking about beavers living on Sullivan Lake. Well, we're dealing with them all the time. I mean, tear it out, they've blown the damn beaver lodge up. Beavers are relentless, so you're going to always have the problem. Never to get rid of them. Nobody traps anymore because of the the people don't want to hurt the animals. They don't realize it. They are destructive, and you got to keep them in check. But Dean's right. I'm sorry, I don't want to kick engineers. Engineers, I know they go to school, they're very educated. Like I told you guys before, I live when we paved the road, I live where the drain, my property is where the drain comes through. My lot was vacant. It used to run right through the middle of my property. The county didn't even have the gall. I mean, they were getting paid. They did the whole project. They paid for it because they had it paid just before I moved in. I mean, they didn't even do the drain properly. They just drained it on the lot. Just went on the lot. Where the drain easement was, it's all stumps. I paid to dig it out. I didn't.
What's that got to do with the agenda?
I'm talking about the drain. This is the drain into over here, like from Greenwood Dean. If we can't trust them to do their jobs, everybody else has to live with it. I have to live with it down there on my lake. Run Lake has to deal with it down here. You understand that?
Yep.
Okay. And you put all those streets and underground drains in like you're gonna put in the subdivision, that water moves faster through that. It's not like it's raining out in the weeds and the grass. It's directly putting that stuff. I know he's gonna put it in the wetlands, but it's gonna force more water in the wetlands, more erosion. I mean, he's right. We've seen it happen. We have to live with it. And it's not just our township, it's other townships. We see it. The engineering isn't always right. But, he's exactly right. We really need we need legal on this. We don't need this private, I don't want his private firms doing the evaluations. He's already done a road study, which is a joke. It's 3 years, and the 3 years, we were all shut down. We had no traffic. When they had COVID shutdown, you could drive out here on the expressway. It was a ghost town, so nobody was driving, so that study's worthless. So, like I said, we need to make sure we get really good studies.
Thank you. Let's check, do we have anybody raising their hand on Zoom? Last call for a move on, anyone else? All right, thank you. Being that we have no more, we'll move on. Moving on to unfinished business, we need some clarification on the Lake Urban Crossing PUD preliminary site plan. We've all received that. I know that Zach, our planner, is here. One of the things that has popped up is the question regarding shall connect to a county primary road, and I know you've researched our ordinance, and I've heard you got a legal opinion on it, possibly. And could you share your thoughts on that with us?
Well, so I haven't contracted a legal opinion, but I've discussed it with other folks at our firm
Okay.
who've been at this even longer than I have. Let me see, I believe that was G. I want to make sure that so it's E underneath the specific standards for planned unit developments, and it says the planned unit development shall be located so that it can be accessed from a paved county primary road, able to safely serve the proposed development without adverse impact on the community. So earlier in this report, we discussed that. It's a very peculiar pairing of words. So in zoning, in any laws, you're very careful about the words that you use. Shall is you must do it, and that's how it's defined in your zoning ordinance. Can is not defined, and the default is you go to the general common usage. And the general common usage is permissive. You're able to do it, but you're not required to do it. For this, so then our evaluation, we looked at how is this handled in other sections of the zoning ordinance. So we found examples of similar access standards where it says you must have access from this type of road, or you must only have access from this type of road, and there are some examples in there. And so when interpreting law, the idea is you look for, when it's unclear, you look for how it sits with the rest of the document. And in this case, our conclusion was that it was written to allow for flexibility, just like the PUD allows for flexibility. So it doesn't say that you shall have access only from a primary road, or you shall have at least one access. You shall be located so that you can have it. I know it feels like mincing words, but when it comes to the laws, words are really important. And one likely scenario of why it would be written to allow that flexibility, we'll use this one as an example. So allowing it to have access from both roads means that the distribution of lots are more favorable. So when you look at the parallel plan, which is how the property could be developed with the zoning districts identified in your future land use map, there are, I don't know the exact number, but there's like 8 to 10 more lots off of Runyon Lake than what the planned unit development proposes. So again, the idea is the PUD allows flexibility if there's a recognizable benefit. And that's why we believe that even though it doesn't feel right, that it is consistent with how it's written.
Thank you. I think Alderman too, we have to see what the road commission has to say about it as well.
Yep, and as you mentioned during public comments, this is the preliminary approval stage. It's kind of a test for fit. Is it generally consistent with the zoning ordinance standards? The process of land development is complex. It's not just the township. Folks have to work with the road commission, with the water resources commissioner, with Eagle, with the sewer districts, with all these folks. And generally these more detailed reviews happen after preliminary, before final. The idea is that folks don't get money released from banks unless they have some sort of a approval that they can continue working on it. So a lot of those reports and studies that folks have mentioned would typically happen after this and before it comes back to the planning commission.
Zach, I have a question. Is Runyon Lake a primary or secondary road?
It is not a primary road.
So why are we going any further? It states, just like the gentleman said, it has to be on a primary road. Well, I'm going to ask you this. If it's a secondary road, why are we even going any further with any waste of time? That's the question and concern I have right now.
So it doesn't say it has to be. It doesn't say it must be. Now, let me pull up the other section here so I can give you other examples from the zoning ordinance.
Hey, can you read that section E again that you had just read?
Yep.
Can we put that on the screen so everybody can see that?
Yeah, so the exact language in your ordinance is a section 11.02E access, is that PUD shall be located so that it can be accessed from a paved county primary road, able to safely serve the proposed development without adverse impact on the community.
Just answered the question right there,
Impact.
major impact.
So, as I described, this is on page 7 on to 8 of the staff report. Shall is mandatory, but can is permitted to. And when we look at other sections, cemeteries and open storage yards, the language in the ordinance says they must have direct access. from certain types of roads. For churches, colleges, golf courses, and contractors' limited storage yards, they have some variation of all access shall be directly to certain types of roads. So when trying to read the intent when it's not clear, if it had said, for example, PUDs shall be located so that all access shall be directly from a county primary road, then that would have been very clearly that you cannot have an access from a non-primary road from a PUD. If it had said, similar to cemeteries or open storage yards, that it needs to have direct access from a county primary road, one could make an argument that this would satisfy it because it does have an access from one of the roads.
The argument is, when do you see
Sir,
160 cars?
sir, it's not time for you to speak. You had public comment.
When do
This
you
is
have
the,
160
I'm sorry, this is time
From
for board
cemetery.
conversation. This is time for board conversation. You had your opportunity. I do not want to call you out of order. If I have to ask you to quiet up, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I don't want to do that. So please be quiet. Proceed.
So I'm trying to find the math here. So the way that it's written, it's very peculiar and very different from how the access standards are written for those other uses, which again led us to believe that it was done purposely to allow for flexibility if the planning commission in this body felt that there was public benefit, which is part of PUDs. And in this case, I don't want to speak for them, but the argument was having a PUD allows for more lots to have access from the south than from the west. So even though there's going to be more traffic because there are lots being developed, it's less than what it would be if it were developed as a by right development.
Well, the concern I have, I graduated from Fenton 45 years ago, and I would travel down Running Lake Road. It was dangerous. O.C. Verhelli lived right on the corner. I mowed her lawn for almost 20 years. I fixed her lawn over 15 times. 2 people hit her house. She had me put big boulders to save her house. The concern I have is right there that you got 52 houses there, and even if you had 5 where you come and go, that's adding a lot of traffic right there. I just think it's extremely dangerous on that corner. Extremely dangerous. There's a lot of accidents there.
And that's something where the road commission may offer an opinion as part of its review.
Well, may is different. You're using careful words.
Yes. So the road commission may not be concerned about volumes or geometries there, but they may. I'm not sure what standards. I'm not an engineer. Math gets tough for me. Well, it doesn't get tough, it gets boring. And so I found the numbers here. So the by right development shown in the parallel plan would have 52 units accessing white, let's see, I flipped them here. Would have 52 instead of the 42. That's shown in parallel. Yep.
And there's 37 coming off Wet Lake Road.
In the final plan or the,
The one that I have right in front of me, it says 52 lots coming off Running Lake Road and 37 lots on White Lake Road.
yep, that's in the parallel plan, the by right plan, the one that ticks all the marks in the zoning ordinance standards for the zoning districts consistent with the future land use map. It's a lot of words. I'm trying to be very specific there. So that's what the base by right development would do, or could do.
So what is your recommendation as far as tonight? Because a lot of people are really concerned about this. And see, the county doesn't live here. We do. We have to face that. Like Ron Broom, my science teacher in junior high, he's had a lot of accidents right there. And you put a lot more traffic on there, there's a lot of accidents. And I think we should look at the Livingston County as far as what they have as their accident reports over the last 5 years and see. It's a dangerous road, and to put more traffic on that road is just suicidal for a lot of residents here, I believe. That's my personal opinion. And I've lived here a long time.
And I would say it can be a adventurous drive even when there isn't traffic.
Right.
Because it's like that old meme where you show the drunk driver in other states where they're swerving and the not drunk drivers going straight. Running Lake Road, the drunk driver's going straight and the non-drunk driver's swerving. So what I would offer, look to your criteria in the zoning ordinance. Base your vote on those. If you don't like the outcome or some of the language here, bookmark it for revisions. And my understanding from Mr. Nicholson is that you guys haven't had a lot of planned unit developments, which means it can be really tricky when you try to get something through that the first time. For example, one of the other communities I work for, Putnam Township, a fellow came in with planned unit development for 990 acres, 99 houses. Everyone's like, this is a great plan. It's got all this preserved area, all these trails for horses and these things, and it didn't meet their planned unit development standard at all. So that,
Can I
yep.
pause you for 1 second? Ladies and gentlemen, please do us a favor and put your cell phones on vibrate. There's a lot of recording information that's being used tonight. Be respectful for that. Sometimes we have to go back for meeting minutes, or if we have to go back for litigation reasons, we need to understand every word that was said. And when cell phones are interrupting it, sometimes that can't happen. So please be respectful and put your phones on vibrate. Thank you. Proceed.
Yep. So now that wouldn't play for this one. That would be for future ones. So that's the unsatisfying answer I can give, is that once someone has submitted an application, they have the right to use the zoning ordinance as it is now. Let's see. I do want to highlight, though, a couple of decisions that the Planning Commission made. And I don't want to, if I misspeak to the record, my apologies, but there were 27-page reports are fun to find things in. So this is on page 20, starting on page 26 of the report. So there are a couple of kind of discretionary things that the Planning Commission finds or found as part of its preliminary review. One was a waiver for the scale that the plans were drawn at. Your zoning ordinance says it has to be 1 to 100. This was a 1 to 150. The Planning Commission determined that they had enough information to review it at that scale. The other was waiving the requirement for the preliminary site plan to show all existing structures within 500 feet. That was a topic of discussion. The Planning Commission made it clear to the applicant that they expected to have all the adjacent dwellings shown on the final site plan. And the reason why that's important is you want to make sure that you've got landscaping and other things so it won't affect the houses as much. So a typical example would be if you have a commercial driveway, you don't want it to be pointing into someone's living room. You want to make sure it's offset. A couple of the other determinations they made. Well, they received a traffic impact statement. One of the things that will have to be supplied is a statement of use because it's a special land use. That'll have to come up for final site plan review. The Planning Commission determined that the parallel plan was reasonably feasible. So again, for your planned unit development, if you're requesting more lots, bonus lots for doing certain things, you have to provide a plan that shows how the property could be developed with the base zoning. And it doesn't necessarily need to have all the details in there, but the lots need to meet the size, the roads have to be appropriate, you have to be able to reasonably manage stormwater. So the Planning Commission determined that the parallel plan was reasonably feasible. As part of a planned unit development, it is possible to request modifications for the developmental standards. So setbacks, lot coverage, lot width, lot area, those were requested, and the criteria for those, which the Planning Commission found to be true, were that the proposed developmental standard modifications were consistent with sound planning and design, are necessary for the preservation of significant features or open space on the site, or are otherwise necessary to result in higher quality design. And so it's a balancing thing. So the idea with planned unit developments is way back in the day, folks realized that sometimes a plan came in that was better than what the zoning allowed, but you couldn't get a variance because there's no hardship. So the idea is that if a plan has recognizable and substantial benefit, you can make some modifications. Some modifications can be requested and granted in order to do that. In this case, the argument is that allowing reduced lot sizes and some setbacks allows for preservation of greater areas of the property. Something that I have observed in my years planning is that if you have a wetland that's part of someone's lot, it's more likely to become not a wetland than if it's part of a common area. So I say that because that's where people drop their leaves, that's where they drop their mulch. They're going to mow it, and it's going to creep. So the balancing is almost all of the wetlands in the proposed plan unit development are not within individual lots. They're within the common area, which the argument is that allows for better preservation of those features into the future. Let's see. The Planning Commission determined that 3 of the criteria were met for additional lots. I can tell you what those are if you need. The Planning Commission, so one of the things that has been discussed is the 30% minimum open space. And so communities have different minimums for open space as part of PUD. Some communities say 40%, some say 50%, some have a sliding scale based on how large the property is. Yours says the minimum needs to be 30% of the lot exclusive of right-of-ways, with a couple of caveats. There's a maximum percentage of submerged lands, also known as water, that you can count towards it, and a maximum percentage of that can come from wetlands. So both of the submerged lands and the wetlands are larger than that, so they get capped. Then the uplands portion of it, the dry land, was short of the acreage. Now your zoning ordinance allows a couple of options. You allow for, fancy term is non-contiguous planned unit development. So that means you could split the planned unit development, and if you needed 10 acres of open space, you could buy a property on the other side of the township, 10 acres, and put the same protection on it. It also allows for reduction of the open space requirement. Where's fancy terms? If it's determined that site characteristics, surrounding natural features, and proposed design features lend themselves to a reduced open space requirement. So the Planning Commission found that that was true and forwarded the planned unit development to this body with that reduced open space area. It's about 2 acres. I can get you the exact math here, but it's about 2 acres if I recall correctly. So those were kind of the things that the Planning Commission looked at. There are a number of conditions that were part of the approval. And again, the understanding is that a lot of details have to get sorted out and studies have to be done before final. I could quickly address some of the comments I heard. Let's see. We discussed the access, the studies from the DNR. River relocation is outside of the township's control. That's the state, because it's a body of water of the state of Michigan. So if you want to do anything with that, you have to get the state's blessing. The proposed plan unit development is for 88 houses, not 120. Just wanted to clarify. And so again, the Planning Commission, kind of the big question for plan unit developments is there recognizable and substantial benefit to the people who will use it in the community in general? And the Planning Commission felt that there was. That's why they forwarded it here. Some of the benefits that I believe they found were that there is a lot of preservation of wetlands because it's outside of lots. There's a lot of trails that are added to this, and instead of using the large pit for stormwater management, they're using a more natural system. For the rate of, for the stormwater, I heard a couple folks mention that. The standard is you aren't allowed to discharge water at a greater rate than its current undeveloped state. So there would, while there any sort of development, you're going to put more water out, the rate that you put it out has to be the same. So that's the idea, is that you have a pre-treatment structure where the water comes in and you have holes drilled on a pipe, fancy engineering stuff, so that it lets it out at the same rate. That's what they aim for. And that would be the same whether or not this was a PUD or a by right development or a McDonald's.
Zach, on that, what do they do as far as a study? Like Mike Kohler talked about the snowfall, but also in 1975, on Denton Hill Road, just at the bottom, I lived there, we had like almost 5 inches of rain and almost washed it out. Are they gonna go back like a 50-year study to see rain and snowfall?
So generally, most of the structures, the stormwater management structures are designed for a 100-year storm event. And I'm not familiar with what Livingston County Water Resources Commissioners are doing, but I know Washtenaw County, they've recently increased how much water that is because they've been following, and we have had larger storm events. Sometimes, depending on the type of the use and the soils, again, this is something that the Water Resources Commissioner handles, they may require it to be designed for two 100-year events back to back. And so the idea is that they would require that if the soils aren't likely to absorb, or it's winter and the ground is frozen and it can't absorb, and you get one storm and another storm. So, but the general minimum is the 100-year event, sometimes up to the 200-year event. For the really large ones, I live in Isabella County, we've had a couple of floods where just bean fields are covered that you would never imagine could be covered. That's just, you can't plan for that. You can try to plan, but it becomes prohibitively expensive to accommodate all that water.
Any other questions for Zach before we move on? Does the board have any further discussion regarding this?
Well, I've got one on the, you mentioned, Zach, about the planned urban. How many have we done in the township that we've done so far, Mike? Because he said we're not really good at doing that, or we don't know enough about it?
One PUD right
One
now.
other.
Where's that located?
That's Irish Hills. And we had one other one, was that, well, that was a site connery, which was right here in the south of it. It did not go through because they couldn't meet open space requirements and other things.
Yeah, that one, as I recall, they tried to include area within the lots as
Yes,
open
they did.
space, which your ordinance says, no,
No.
that doesn't work.
So. They've got a long way to go with this. A lot of review, a lot of engineering work needs to be done, so. There's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion. Do I have a motion to move the site plan forward?
Mike, on this here, moving it forward, is just letting the developer see that he can get the road commission and the state.
Yeah, we are not approving this by
Right.
any stretch.
I'll make a motion to move it forward so he can, I think he's been long enough and get the road commission involved and stuff. If we are just making it clear that all we're doing is moving it forward so he can get the studies to have it come back to us.
Right, it's just concept approval, meaning that he meets criteria of our ordinance, and he has to, road commission, drain commission, Eagle, whatever else, there's gonna be a lot that he has to do, there's a lot on that site. There's wetlands, there's regulated wetlands. Regulated wetlands he can't touch, wetlands he can. So, that's up for Eagle to decide, so. Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second? I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded to give preliminary site plan approval to Lake Irving Crossing PUD. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
Nay. So the motion doesn't carry. Moving on to new business, item number 1, Speaker Larry Gothrop, CFAO Mott Community College. Larry?
Thank you.
Larry's here to speak tonight a little bit about the special assessment that we have for Mott Community College.
I can touch on that.
Yeah, if you like.
Sure. So, let me just go through briefly. I have a prepared PowerPoint that I'll go through, and then we talk about the milling section. So, what I wanted to do is come to you this evening. My name is Larry Gothrop. I'm the Chief Finance and Financial Administrative Officer at Mott.
I know we requested this, we asked you guys for answers on this, but I can't hardly hear them. People back here probably can't either.
Can you turn this way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know you guys, thank you for bringing this, so I like to know where our money's coming.
We're closer, we can hear you, and you're on your own.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, I've done it before. So, thank you for allowing me to come speak to you tonight about the college and things that are going on there. We've been trying to get out to different municipalities and speak to the taxpayer constituents, mainly related to the situation of the pandemic affecting the college. And so what I want to tell everybody is that we are open. We have been open the entire time and shut down for 1 week only. We have had to go to hybrid in many cases because of the pandemic, and so it's actually helped get the college more, I guess, in the 21st century with online classes. There wasn't a lot of those going on. You do have to understand that a lot of the college, as a community college, it's open enrollment. It serves everybody. So there is no selection process. There's an application, but there's no cutoff or grades or anything like that. So we do have quite a few students who come who aren't as technologically advanced. So online classes didn't traditionally work well. We found that with all the technology and the support that we have, that it is helping. Fenton Schools, which is in Tyrone Township, sends quite a few students. There's more students that come to Mott out of Fenton than they send any other university. That's the way it is with most K-12s in the Genesee Intermediate School District. So the boundaries of Mott Community College go along with the Genesee Intermediate School District. So there's parts of Tyrone Township, parts of Oakland County, there's parts of Saginaw County. So it's not just Genesee County. It goes and stretches based on what the ISD does. So since you're in Livingston County, clearly part of Tyrone Township is Fenton Schools, part of it is not. So that's the way the boundaries are drawn whenever they did that, way before my time. So the locations we have, Flint, we have 4. Satellite location in Clio and Fenton on Thompson Road. And then we also have a workforce area in Owasso. Just to highlight a couple of programs that are very, very popular, and I want to highlight a couple new ones actually. We're finding that there's a lot of students who are going back into trades. For the longest time, it was get a 4-year degree, get a 4-year degree, get a 4-year degree, and then what ends up happening is we have a lot of people with 4-year degrees and they're having difficulty finding work. In the meantime, the skilled trades, there was nobody there to help with skilled trades. So we're finding that that's really coming back, and we're doing that with welding. We have a new program also for, we don't have concrete technology, but the lineman program through Consumers Energy. There's a demand for that lineman program, so we're starting that up as well. We actually have this mobile unit, it's a tractor trailer. It's a mobile learning lab. We're able to take it to wherever, set it up, and right now it's set up for welding, virtual welding, believe it or not, or you can do it without having all the settling and all the torches, but they're able to do it virtually. Facilities, we have a culinary arts school that just started. We opened that up 4 years ago, I guess, in downtown Flint. culinary program is highly regarded, and it brings in a lot of students as well for that. Academic support, I'm not going to go through all of this. We have a complete academic support as far as accepting financial aid, federal financial aid, grants, tuition, that type of thing. Our tuition is the lowest of any other alternative school that would be a choice. Oftentimes, or not oftentimes, a vast majority of the time, if someone's going to go to community college, they're going to go to the one that's in their district. So we don't compare what's Lansing's, what is Delta's, what is St. Clair's, Oakland's. It's what is it if they would go to UM Flint? They would go to Baker College now in Wausau instead of in Flint, that closed down. So what is that difference? So ours is $4,307, and the next lowest is Baker College at $12,000. So one of the missions is to keep the college very affordable. That's the taxpayer support that is relied on to help do that. The last thing I want to go over, we do have a very robust athletic program as well. Our basketball team is constantly rated in the nation. I believe they're number 2 right now. Clearly, we're not a University of Michigan or Michigan State. We don't have a huge athletics program that drives revenue to the college. It does cost the college to support those programs. The final thing I want to say is that we had, in 2023, Mott Community College will be celebrating 100 years. So that's a phenomenal achievement for that school. It's branched out, helped several people, including myself, my family. I went there. My mother started there. She went to Flint afterwards. My dad took auto trade classes there. So it's been an integral part to not just me, but many, many people in the community. So I hope that part answers the millage part and why there's parts of Tyrone Township and not parts of Tyrone Township that have a millage that go to the college. That was a state-drawn thing. That is not something we do. And the only way I would think that would ever be changed would have to go back to the state when the ISD district would be drawn. Yes, sir.
We ask questions, Mike.
Yeah, let the board ask questions and then.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the first question I would have is there a cost advantage for those that are paying the millage over residents that are not paying the millage if they attend Mott?
Fantastic question. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't say that. Yes, there's an in-district and out-of-district tuition. The in-district is $145.02 a contact hour. Out-district is $186, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
And the numbers that you've given in the example for tuition, are those in district or out of district?
The $145.02 would be in-district,
Okay.
and then $186.
Yeah, your example here in the.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's in-district, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that would be at 15 contact hours for 2 semesters.
Okay.
30.
Is there still a tax credit available for Mott under the state income tax?
No, the state income tax credit, that was all taken out with the Snyder administration, I believe. Yeah. But there's still a federal hope in those things.
Board, any more questions?
All right, something, see, a lot of people are concerned that they're paying a lot of money in this and they're not getting anything back. But I know a lot of students from Fenton that live in Tyrone Township because it's a Fenton school district that have went to Mott. So it does benefit us a lot because a lot of these kids that are here, they will work in the area. So that's another benefit. It doesn't directly benefit us because we're older.
Right.
But a lot of younger people are going to Mott from Fenton School District to live in Tyrone Township that are still coming back and residing here and working in departments in different locations. So that's one thing that I look at. And also with the thing, if you live in the Fenton School District, like with Whiting Auditorium or Capitol Theater, you can get a 30% discount on tickets there too. Because even though we're in Livingston County, we're paying into the Genesee County part. So if you go to that, it's more than just Mott College. There's a lot of other things that we benefit from that.
And if I may, Trustee Ferguson, to add on to that, the direct benefit, you're right, with any millage, anytime there's a millage, police millage, fire millage, the direct benefit is to the community. It's not to any one individual. I mean, otherwise you have to pay for service for every single call that you have, right? Some people could, some people couldn't. So that's the whole millage concept. But there is one direct benefit that I failed to mention, 60 years or older, I think it's 50, 55, you can go for free. So you can take a class for free. So there's a direct benefit if you're a senior citizen and you want to take a class. You would have to pay for course fees or any materials in the class, but the tuition would be free.
And that's for in-district only, right?
Yeah, that would be for Tyrone Township, the ones that are paying millage.
Okay. How many trade programs do you have? Do you know?
Oh, boy. We have quite a few. Well, HVAC is huge.
Right.
So HVAC is one. You can't, welding is coming back. Welding went away for a long time. BCom, building construction. In Livingston, we had a site in Livingston that was sold this past year. And that was big, but that has not come back yet. But we're now starting to get people who are wanting to go into construction in that trade. So that I'm sure will make it come back as well.
What about the auto mechanics? My instructor at Skill Center, he taught at Mott.
Yeah, so the auto mechanics program actually has been, oh no, I'm sorry, we have auto mechanics, auto body was taken out.
Okay.
Yes, auto mechanics is still.
Is there a difference for district versus out of district for things like dual enrollment and things like that through the high schools?
Yeah, so the dual enrollment, what we do, there's a dual enrollment in district. If we look here, we have a campus in there, site right here. So we do work with those districts, but we don't charge them the same in district. It's not fair to people paying taxes. So, yeah, but we do try to take off a registration fee for the students. You know, they're not using any of the financial aid or the intake processes or counseling. They're not using any of that. So we don't really feel like they should be paying that.
One of the biggest concerns that people have is when I take credits at Mott, do they transfer most of the credits or some of the credits? Or I know that U of M used to have a program where you could basically do the first 2 years at Mott and then come over into U of M, but I don't think that's active anymore.
Yeah, well, so that's a very interesting question, and quite honestly, there's more and more, up until recently, of these programs are 2+1, or 2+2, and 3+1. So Ferris is on campus, they're on the main campus. They actually have a 3+1 program in more than one. Criminal justice is one that they do, they're big on that. And there's other 3+1s. Other colleges, we have a university center on campus, and there's universities that are present there. Again, the 4-year thing is kind of is stabilized. There's not a lot of growth on the 2 to 4 year plan, but the trades are really coming back. Cosmetology is another huge one that came right after the pandemic. We thought that the program was going away because there was no enrollment. And the first thing that happened after this pandemic is that we had more people enroll in that, in the cosmetology and esthetician program than we've ever had.
That's because we couldn't go to the salons.
Yeah, that's what it,
I thought it was because people didn't want to cut their own hair.
Did you say 50 or 55 for the gold?
Yeah, you know, I will get that back
Oh,
to
okay.
Jennifer. I'm so sorry.
That's
I
okay.
do that every time I go. And I want to say 55, but for some reason I think it's 50.
Okay.
Because it's
We'll
55
get it.
off my head.
Board, anybody else?
Larry, before you leave, can I get your card or number?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. I have a card.
All right, Scott had a question.
Scott, Lawrence, thanks for coming. I thank the board for bringing them. I know we asked you, and thank you. I sent my daughter through state, she's a teacher, so believe me, I support teaching 100%. And I want to get these kids past, I like to go preschool past 12th grade. I'm all in. I'm paying a lot of money for this Mott Community College. And I know we voted it down. Okay? I know Oakland County, do you have your map with you? I don't know if you can put a map up.
I don't
Of the districts. If you look at the map, there's so much vacant area that's not sucked in. And if these people send their kids to Mott, they're going to benefit out of the money we're putting in there. I know they don't get the same discount, but it would be considerably more if we weren't funding it. So, I mean, they're benefiting from it. People ain't paying. I mean, that's what I'm trying, I like, and I think the board understands where I come from, because I like to do fairness. And I'm trying to be fair with everybody. And there's no skin in the game for these parents in these other school districts. Like, we got people in our Tyrone Township, our Harvard schools, They're not paying into any of these programs.
And I live in
And
Harvard.
we are, and it's not a couple dollars.
No.
It's several $100s a year. I mean, it would be a lot of money in the federal school systems. I'm not anti this. This isn't a question for you to answer. This isn't a question for the board to answer. This is for our state reps. Why isn't this across the board? Why are we only getting hammered with this? It would take a little bit of money off of our backs and take a little bit out of their pockets because they're going to benefit a little bit. They are, if their kids go there. Maybe not as much as we do, but they still benefit. And that's where I draw the line. And that's why it probably was turned down on
So Scott, what was your question?
Well, I'm just making a comment because I think that's my question. That's my
Well,
question is.
you asked if you could ask a question, and I haven't heard the question yet. I've just heard comments.
Well, the comment is, and I thought it was like a question, is why is it just directed for a small part of the community? Should be broad-based over all the communities. Oakland County gets tied up.
He answered that. Did you want him to repeat the answer?
Well, I guess you didn't understand my comment.
We were waiting for the question.
The question was, it should be broad-based. And we turned it down. We turned it down.
We understand that.
Okay, we turned
That's
it
the
down,
state.
and we still got stuck with it.
You
Listen,
can't
I'm
do anything
all,
about it.
no, I understand that.
Okay.
I
I just want
understand.
you to
He understood what I was
I do
saying.
understand.
But I just kind of said that we turned it down for a reason, and it still went through. I'd like to see it go through across the board, just to let you know.
I have a question for you, Scott. What do you mean across the board? Like the whole residents of Tyrone Township?
You gotta look at, you didn't hear anything I said.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
You're saying across the
But I'm
board. I'm trying to
if you
have
look
you
at the
clarify.
map, there's a map,
Yeah,
okay? Very small portion of Tyrone Township pays Mont Community College.
Fenton School
Just
District.
Fenton School
Fenton School
District,
District.
okay? I just asked them.
Yeah.
If kids in Heartland School District go there, we are maintaining the buildings. We pay for that.
But they're paying more money.
They pay a little bit more, but they still benefit, because if we weren't paying the money to keep up the buildings, it would probably cost us a little more. That's what I'm saying. So they do benefit a little bit.
I guess we'd literally have to sit down and find
Yeah,
out.
that's what I'm saying.
We'd have to do a financial analysis to determine how much revenue is generated from those that are being assessed a millage as to those that are paying out of district costs to determine that's.
But I'm just saying, but say the Heartland Schools District.
It's an unknown right now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's my comment. And I just, like I said, it was turned down. And I turned it down for a reason.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Does Mott receive state funds
Yes,
from the state of Michigan?
yes.
Not just Tyrone or Tennessee or anybody else?
No, the college funding comes from 3 different places. One is tuition, one is local property taxes,
Does,
SUV,
okay,
and then the state of Michigan has an appropriation.
yeah. So, in turn, Mott's making money. Yes or no? Some question. Yes or no?
Making money.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Is it non-profit?
Yeah, well, no, so making money is, does the college balance its budget? Yes. For sure.
You gotta burn up your budget every year, right?
What's that?
You gotta burn up your budget every year, right?
No, there are some years
Yeah.
we've had to go into reserves.
We don't.
Are you a state employee?
No.
They're not, Mott College are not state employees.
Well, no, I'm sorry, they are considered, they're part of the state retirement system, so yes, they would be.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Yes.
You've lived here as long as I have, yes or no?
What's that?
You've lived here as long as I have.
Should they make money?
Paid into that? No. Paid into the
Yeah.
taxes for Mott?
Yeah, and I'm gonna
Schools.
capitalize on it because I'm a senior citizen and I'm gonna go up there and start taking classes.
I got some projects for you.
I'm gonna give you a second job.
I can't see one little portion of, like this gentleman over here, one little portion of Tyrone Township paying in, and a outsider only has to pay a few more dollars per credit hour, or however you put it, and you're getting money from the state, which is still coming out of my pocket.
That's right.
It's coming out of everybody's pocket. We're done with the taxes. Do you understand? Do you understand? Yes.
Yeah, we understand it, but it's out of our control.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It starts here at the township.
It does.
This starts
Yeah,
right here.
it starts with the people, all of us.
Yeah. Are you listening?
I heard it loud and clear. I've actually inquired about it and tried to see what we can do to stop
But like, we all pay taxes too.
Yeah.
We do.
You know,
Some of us have more than one else.
You get tired of it? Takes less and less
So,
longer.
yeah, but it's not just you, it's not just you here, it's, we're all in this together.
All right, we got a lot of work to do. Does anybody have any other questions?
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So, where would we go to get this information, to make it more public to, well, us senior citizens? Because I never knew that that was even available. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's gonna bring more people into the college. And I will agree with you that online is a pain because my wife here is an online teacher for 10 years. What company? Well, Connections Academy.
Maybe if you have a brochure, there's some information that you can read regarding that.
Put it on the website.
Let me do
So
that.
how do we make it more public to people? How can you advertise this to get it more, I mean, because a lot of people in Tyrone Township aren't aware of this. All they see is, we're getting taxed for something that I know nothing about. How do we make
The
it more
township
public?
could put it on the front page.
We'll put it in our newsletter.
Put it on the front page.
I
And
mean,
do the.
I think the more we
And
make it,
we have information out here, we can get some handouts or whatever too. possibly.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. What else did I have? Something else.
and all of us
Time,
that are
that's
getting
what-
an
it's
extra
$1.55.
couple $100 a year, break that down per day. Come on,
So Larry, do you have?
couple cups of coffee.
$400.
So what's the?
Okay, $400 a year.
I'm sorry, but I don't have anybody in the college, not knowing I don't have my grandkids here. So that's a big money for me and my husband to pay. So I was kind of like, I will support the regular schools, public schools, but college, it's a business. You have tuition, kids are paying. So it's like, we supporting extra, it's a business, it's a college. My husband went through college and he paid a lot of money and he worked part-time and he went to college. So this, to me, it's really. And this is just a 1 year or this gonna be like for?
It's been forever.
The millage?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so every community college in the state, when they were chartered by the state, has what they call a perpetual millage. And so that goes into perpetuity. There's a voted portion that you guys have voted on. That was a 10 years, so that's up every 10 years.
Which was kind of.
I've got a question online. real quick.
Oh, I have a question too. Go ahead. Take your online one first.
Do you want me to?
Nope, you're fine.
You're just looking at the back of your head.
Donna or John, you have a question? Go ahead.
That was just a comment. I was looking on the website and it says that the gold card is for 60 and over.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There's still
Long time before.
Still ain't never. Well, wait a few more years.
Larry, so what you can do about making that 50?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be alive then, yeah.
Is there, so I do have a question though, I don't know if any of the municipalities are doing this, but is there a way that if we put this on our website, like on the landing page for our website, do you have a link so that residents of the community can link right, so you can work with our folks here and they can link right out to that so they can register for class, do those kind of things?
Link to the website?
To
or
your,
link
to your website.
I don't see why not.
Okay,
Yeah, that's why not.
that seems like the easiest way. Okay.
Well, we have that wall out there, and people that come in love to get the handouts too. So.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I mean, if we put it on the landing page, it makes it easy to access whatever.
Right.
I just got one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I own multiple lots, and I pay those taxes on 2 different lots. One's vacant, which means no house on it, no kids could live there, yet I still pay my and school taxes on it. And of course, it's a lake lot, so it's still quite a big sum. Is there some way we make that more fair, where I only have to pay it one time as a?
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to our state rep, Bob Bizot, and see if he'll come down here and talk to us about that.
I agree.
And,
Now, I don't mind paying, but I just don't like paying multiple times.
well, I
I
hear
don't
you.
have kids and never have.
I hear you. I totally hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, let me reach out to Bizot and see if he'll come down here and we can address our concerns and see if he has the ability to, get something going or whatever. But we'll get him down here. All right. Any other questions, comments? Larry, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 2 is the Niami shared private driveway request. We have a anonymous recommendation for approval by the planning commission. We have approval by the Fenton City Fire Chief, and it's been reviewed by our planner, and there's no problems. So if we have any other questions, I think Kurt can answer those. If not, I'll entertain the motion.
I make a motion. Okay.
Support. Been motioned and supported to approve the Niami shared driveway request. Any further discussion?
The only thing I would add is it looks like the planning commission had suggested that we have conditions as to the signage for the address.
Right.
Whatever we need to do to make sure that's a part of the motion.
They can't get an address till we approve.
Right.
So
That's
it's
understood.
Yeah.
And they'll get one.
Okay.
Mike, where is that located at, the driveway?
Right here.
Stones throw away.
Yeah.
Alright.
Walk past the pine trees and you're on.
Yeah, it's about a 3 yard away.
It's off of Indian View Trail.
3 iron, I might drive
Right,
right
it's
over.
not called Indian View Trail. It's off of Indian View Trail.
On the map in your packet right there.
Yeah.
It's right behind, I mean, literally right behind the township.
Yeah.
Alright, so, good to go.
All right, so it's been motioned and supported to approve the Niami shared driveway. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Item number 3 is the historic townhouse resolution. This basically is language, this will help the Historical Society in getting grants. Basically stating that if we move this township hall, that we're going to maintain it here, insure it here, and oversee any relocation efforts. I think we might want to add some language in there, say, if the funds are raised to move it.
Do we need to add the lot of time?
That's pursuant to the agreement, which that's mentioned. Is it pursuant to that agreement? So the time is pursuant there. So I'll make a motion, I'll resolve to do the historic townhouse resolution to include the language if the funds are raised. Do I have support? Support. Any further discussion?
Mike, I just have one question. Jennifer, you mentioned, is there a time frame on that, pursuant?
Right now it's till November this year. Remember, we had it extended. So I guess anything after that needs to be negotiated with the property owner.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this is a resolution, so Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Excuse me, does not the township have a rainy day fund in the black?
Yeah,
Extra
but
monies that,
we
maybe we can apply towards that?
yeah, we had put a survey out, and our residents and have overwhelmingly said that they like the building. It can either stay there, or the Historical Society can raise the funds to move it. They don't want us using our money to do it.
What kind of money is they looking at to move it?
Well,
To here
for
or-
starters, about $100,000.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, once we get close to that number, we'll find out more once we, actually put it out for bid and figure out what all the costs are.
Will they move to this?
Yes.
location? Just for like a historical walkthrough thing, or gonna use it for a building as office? or-
No, it won't be just for office. It'll just be a historical building.
Preserve history.
Yeah, preserve history and possibly some events with the Historical Society.
What was this year of build?
1887.
87?
1887.
My parents' house on White Lake Road here was 1834, before Michigan was a state. I don't know if you guys know any of the history in the area.
Right.
It was known as Runion's Tavern, the stagecoach stop.
Call the question.
Between
I'm calling the
Pontiac
question.
and Lansing.
Calling the question?
Yes, can we vote?
Yes, we can.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
Zach Tucker,
Yes.
Herm Ferguson,
Yes.
Kurt Schultz,
Yes.
David Walker.
Yes.
Mike Cunningham.
Yes.
Jennifer Eden.
Yes.
And I say yes.
Moving on, that resolution passes. Moving on to item number 4 is a grant management policies and procedures resolution. We actually have our accountant on Zoom. I know he's got a Casey right there.
All right.
Click on
Oh, can you guys hear
it.
me?
We can hear you. Could you put your
Yeah, so-
put your camera on?
All right. Good evening, sorry for a little sick. So, this resolution was even having.
Hey Casey, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
I can't hear anything he's saying.
You're coming in kind of muffled.
Can't hear you at all now. Can you hear me now?
Let me hear.
I think we'll just, what we're gonna do is call you on cell phone and put you on speaker. So mute him.
All right. This is better.
How loud can you?
Okay. What this is here, this is a resolution to, with the federal ARPA funds as it relates to the COVID funds that we received. The first step in the process before we can start spending those funds is we do have to have an established grant policies and procedures. So this was adopted from the MGFOA policies and procedures sample that they had. So we're just looking for approval on this, and then obviously at a later date we would come to discuss what the township wants to spend those ARPA funds on.
Gotcha. Anybody have any questions for?
I
Casey?
I do have a question. It's tangential to this.
Let's start with Stack, since he's the attorney. Probably the best question.
I think I've answered my own question because I looked at the rules and they have this goofy looking blank thing in front of it. It comes after the section numbers and the references. I don't think that's actually a blank that's meant to be filled in. That's how it's supposed to look, right?
Can you give me a page number that you're looking at?
It's kind of scattered throughout. I see it on 9. Yeah, it looks like that may be the first time it shows up. Source of governing requirements.
Yeah, so the reason that it is spacing is because it is, I believe it's 14 separate different policies and procedures you need to have, so it is broken out by those spacing is what it is.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. I looked at the A102 common rule and it showed up there too, so it was consistent. But I just wanted to make sure my conclusion was correct.
Yeah, it is going to mirror that A133. Now there is a new one out there, uniform guidance that is being used for this, so it does mirror all of the federal requirements for grant stacking.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. David, you have a question?
No.
Okay. All right, so if anybody has any other question or comment, I'll entertain the motion.
So moved.
Support.
It's a resolution. So it have to be so resolved. David?
So resolved.
Support.
Been resolved and supported to approve the grant management policies and procedures. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mike Cunningham.
Yes.
Jennifer Eden.
Yes.
David Walker.
Yes.
Kurt Schultz.
Yes.
Herm Ferguson.
Yes.
Zach Tucker.
Yes.
And I say yes.
And while we have you on the line, Casey, item number 5 is budget amendment. Did you want to explain that for us?
Yeah, so what we did is obviously each month I'm constantly tracking where we're at with the budget, so these were a couple things that I did pop out that I wanted to bring to your attention before we brought the final amendment in March. The Silver Lake State rubbish, we did have some more expenses there.
population is up, and then we had quite a few accidents occurred on Old US 23 that were due to the construction that was up there. So that would cover those spikes.
Do you need this as a resolution or a motion?
This is just a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Been motioned and supported to make the budget amendments as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Item number 6 is the meeting dates for 2022-23 for the board, planning commission, ZBA. One change that we did to our meetings, if you noticed in November, we took our township board meeting out for deer season because that always seems to be a problem.
Thank you.
Not only for board members, but for residents as well. So we just will handle whatever we have either the week before or the week after.
So resolved. Support.
Been resolved and supported to approve our 2023 meeting dates. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Zach Tucker,
Yes.
Herb Ferguson,
Yes.
Kurt Schultz,
Yes.
David Walker,
Yes.
Mike Cunningham,
Yes.
Jennifer Eden. Yes. And Lucy, yes.
Tree cutting is something that we do every year. I was figured I had a little bit more time, but our tree cutter decided that he's ready to get these done. It's oak cutting season. He has our road commission. We get right-of-way money. We use that right-of-way money to cut trees that have a potential to fall into the road, cause injury, harm, traffic problems, whatever. It's been a pretty successful program for us. It's also helped reduce the amount of fire runs associated with downed trees. There are some oaks that are around, and he wants to take care of some of those. He's got 2 days' work, and it's not to exceed $7,000. It's state money that's given to us. We budgeted for it. In fact, we didn't do any last year, so we're sitting good in that fund. So I'd like to entertain the motion of go ahead and approve the tree cutting not to exceed $7,000.
And just to be clear, it's in the budget.
Yes.
Okay. So moved.
Support.
Been motioned and supported to approve the tree cutting not to exceed $7,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Miscellaneous business, we have none. Public remarks. So anybody like to ignore Scott? Go ahead.
Now, let's get back to the historical building. I've seen a lot of surveys, and you see work around a lot of them, and got things true around what people wanted. That land was donated. The people moved the building to the donated land. I think this township owes it to that building and the people to put up some money for them to move that building. I think the township owes it to the people. Sold the property. The property went with the building. So there's money that should be, there was the money that came out of that sale. Some of it should go to help move that building. I'm sorry. You guys know that's the right thing to do. Maybe not all of them. A lot of people are working hard to get the money up to move that building. And it looks beautiful from the outside. If I'd have known what I know now, I saw it was being kept up. It wasn't being kept up. The township was responsible for it. And it wasn't being kept up. Not when the doors rusted out. Wild animals are getting in. And I'm not blaming just one board. I'm blaming several boards. We don't camp out there. I'm not going to point fingers at you guys. It's a community working together. And I thank you guys for bringing Lawrence in. I got another issue on those parks, $25. I brought that up. And I only pay $11 for my park pass on my truck, and I can go any park I want, state park. We're paying $25 on our taxes for here on Metro, and we don't get to get in there free. So that's another issue I'd like you guys to look into, please. And please might follow up on the state level on this, because I think you heard some concern about the tax money that we're spending. I don't mind it. I just think it should be across the board, not just little bits and pieces of the county. I think that's what I was trying to tell you. I think it's something, I think the statewide is a good program. K through whatever, past 12. But the building, I'd like to see, the building's beautiful, go buy that, but I'm sorry. Heritage, I mean, people worked their butt off to move that building. And I think the township will get something out of that sale towards that building. I know they're working hard, I think the building will be brought up, and I think people will bring up some money, it's gonna take some time, but I think we can, this township can squeeze out a little bit of money. So thank you.
Yes, public comment, anyone?
Quick question, maybe you can answer, maybe you can't, Jeff Cooper. So thank you to Ms. Eden for enlightening me on, I can't burn right now, today on our discussion. And that was kind of my question is, so I have some brush that I needed to burn, or that I need to burn. And I'm glad that we went over the burning ordinance, because I missed that part that you can't burn right now. Which to me is kind of an optimal time, because my neighbor's windows aren't open and there's snow on the ground, and I don't have to worry about making fire. Is there a reason that we can't burn in the winter?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, I'd rather do it now.
I know that our fire department is really involved in our ordinance, and probably came from them. I can look into it, I mean, and I agree with you, I think right now it's.
I'd rather do it now when my neighbor's windows aren't open and I'm not smoking them out.
I do know that if the fire didn't get out of control, fighting fires in the wintertime is freezing is very challenging.
Yeah.
So I would,
Let's ask them.
I would tend to believe that's what it's gonna be, but I'll still ask the question.
Okay, appreciate it. Yeah, because it's like, I figured less chance of a big fire when there's snow on the ground than April 1st when everybody's got their windows open, smelling flowers. And, oh, now my neighbor's gonna burn his brush. All right, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? All right, we have a Zoom question.
Hey guys, I'm assuming that's me. I have a quick question about the Lake Urban vote, because through Zoom, it sounded like a lot of nays, but then the motion carried.
It did not carry.
Oh, it did not carry. Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then I also wanted to just say to the board how much I appreciate the forward progress and the open minds and the working together on the townhouse in the last couple months. I really think it's a project that's going to benefit our community greatly in the end. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Anyone else? Do you have a comment?
Jeff Loretta, Fuller Drive. What is the agreement with the township and the historical society about, I know you have a resolution that basically says, it's your townhouse, which it is. But what's the agreement with the historical society? Is there one?
I think it's an implied agreement that they're gonna raise funds and move the building to here.
So, are you working on an agreement with them?
We
Right
haven't
now?
at this point, this was the first step.
So there's not been meetings where you've gotten together and talked about what agreement you could come up with?
There has been meetings.
Okay. So there's no agreement, so there's no agreement, for example, what those funds would be covering, et cetera, for what gets done with the townhouse, how, what gets, what it's paying for, the moving, a roof if it needs it, the damage that we know that other people have found as they've gone into it. So there's no agreement on that.
Not at this point, no.
Will there be an agreement?
I'm assuming, I don't know, we'll wait and see.
Well, I would like to suggest that there is an agreement drawn up. I know that they're asking the community, the historical society, they're asking the community to donate money. And I know a lot of us don't feel comfortable donating money until we know what the agreement is and what the plan is.
The plan is to move the old townhouse to this location.
And that's it. So move
If,
That's it.
well, if the
At
money's
this time-
raised.
Right, if the money is raised.
If the
we
money's
get enough.
not raised, then there's not gonna
What
be
would be the
problem.
sense
There's a
of
chance there
moving-
won't be an agreement.
What would be the sense in moving it if there wasn't also an agreement to fix it up or at least fix the damage, et cetera, like roof and all those kinds of things?
Well, I don't know, we'll get to that when it's time.
I understand when it's time, but meanwhile, they're trying to raise money, and like I said, there's people that don't want to donate to it until they know that there's a plan.
This is what they had asked from us.
So that's all they asked?
Yes.
So the Historical Society, all they wanted was to get
A resolution.
a resolution that you will allow the building to be moved over here.
Right,
And they'll pay
that
for
we
it.
will manage the move and all that.
So the
Ensure it
township
and
will,
keep possession.
I'm sorry?
And ensure it and keep possession of it.
And it'll be the township that does that,
Yes.
not the Historical Society.
Correct.
Okay. So, okay, just wanted to be clear, that that's all we
That was
know.
their wishes.
Okay, that's all they asked you for, and that's all we know. Okay. I have one other question. Does anybody on the board know how many resolutions there are that the township has? And where I can find them? Just to read.
I told you how to find them. I told you to send a FOIA request.
And that you'll charge me for them.
Well,
Right.
yeah, you never said which ones you wanted.
I want all of them. I
From
want to
when
see the
to when?
resolutions.
From when?
All the resolutions that you follow.
From the beginning of the Tyrone Township?
Are there resolutions that are active that you need to know what those resolutions are? I would like to see them.
You're gonna have to ask for them specifically.
How do I know what to ask for specifically? You said they're in meeting minutes, but the meeting minutes only go to 2019 on the website. How do I know what meeting minutes to ask for? Because then you said I have to FOIA those. How do I know what to ask for? For the resolutions?
You have to figure out what to ask for.
What are you looking for?
Sorry, are you part of the board? Are you asking me questions now?
You tell
Just-
everybody.
I just want to know, all I want to know is, do you not have a file somewhere where you know what the resolutions are? Where you can pick them up and read them?
We have a file.
Then why don't we just scan them and send them to me, or put them on the website? Why do I have to hunt for them?
So the process for that is a FOIA request. As
How do I
defined
know
by
what
the-
to ask for?
So if you want all of them,
Okay,
they'll go in and they'll look at how many there are.
uh-huh.
Then they will tell you how much it will cost to duplicate them and get them to you.
But yet they're public documents.
All of our documents are public documents.
But how can they be public if I don't know what I'm looking for?
Anybody who wants to request something from us fills out a FOIA request telling us exactly what they want. You have to be specific under the FOIA law.
When you come onto the board, do you have to read and know what the resolutions are? Do you have to have some idea of the type of things like that are going on that you have to be aware of? I mean, isn't there a file somewhere that you can just make a quick copy?
Now, quick copy.
What are there,
It's gonna take
thousands?
hours of work.
So there's thousands.
Probably
So I can look
thousands.
at, so I can
There's
look
a
at
lot.
getting charged thousands of dollars to get this information.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you.
One quick question on, Herman was bringing it up with the urban lake. Now, the language, as Zach said, was can access a primary road. But there was no language that said can access a secondary road. And, we couldn't ask questions during that time. And I didn't want, there was clarification, because it only says can access a primary road. But what about a secondary road? It doesn't spell that out, so think about that.
Ed Murray, Tyrone Township. Okay, if the Historical Society doesn't raise the funds, by, what is it, November 2022? Who does the negotiation, or is there going to be an extension made available so they have more time to raise the funds?
That would be a conversation between the current landowner and
And who, I'm sorry?
The township board, or possibly the historical society.
Okay. So do you think there's a fair chance if they don't raise the funds that we can get an extension?
He's already given us one.
Okay, do you think we'll get another one?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't tell you that. I would hope that he would.
Okay.
I think the residents and the historical society have to set November as their timeline, and they have to make it happen. No matter if you have a year or you have 2 years, if somebody wants something bad enough, you're going to make it happen.
Well, at this day and age, with the quotes that you've been putting out there of 100,000 plus, this can be very hard to do at this day and
Well,
age.
I think they've already raised close to 10 grand. So,
That's a long ways to go.
well, it is.
It is.
And they're having a fundraiser. Are you part of that fundraiser?
I'll be part of it. Yeah. And hopefully, with that quote that was thrown out there without any quotes from anybody, from what I understand, is way out of line.
And it may be,
Considerably.
then I guess we'll have a
So
cushion.
hopefully we'll be able to raise the money and not come close to 100,000. But just in case, I'm always trying to look into the future to see what other options we have to try to save that building. And the other question is, once it's moved, who is responsible for the maintenance of that facility on this property? Who handles that and where do the funds come from?
That has yet to be determined.
I see. Okay.
But we'll,
Well, something to think about then in the
oh,
future.
we've already thought about it.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
thinking about
There's
it.
no answer available.
That's been taken care of.
First hurdle, let's get it here. And then we'll figure out how
Quite
to
early.
you know.
And hopefully, since I went out and got some hardcore quotes to make it more realistic, it looks like it's gonna be closer to 60 grand, and hopefully that'll be the case, instead of throwing this $100,000 plus without any quotes. I'd appreciate more accurate information myself. Thank you very much.
That gets the building here, 60,000.
That's correct.
And what about the foundation that we put it on?
That's also included in my,
What about all the electrical services that need to be hooked up to?
yeah, I put extra
What
money
about
in.
the,
I
what
put
about the
extra money
remods
in
to the
just
building?
to cover that.
Sure. And what happens to any damages that occur to the building?
Well, you guys step up and help take care of the building.
So that's all
Thanks a
part of the
lot.
cost of moving a building.
Those are the answers I expected. Thank you.
But hopefully it is less. We all pray that it is.
No problem.
I already got it for the building, 50% less than what you threw out. Thank you.
Good.
A lot less.
Good.
We're not opposed to it.
We're not opposed to it.
Well, you know what, I'm sorry, but you guys, I know you're dealing with certain people in the historical society. A lot of us are up in the dark because we haven't been in meetings, because they've been canceled. And the meetings seem to be going on with you guys, and we're left out in the dark. A lot of us historical society members. So I'm not too happy about it.
Take it away.
And, yeah, but you guys sold the building. I don't really want you guys to have 100% control over what's going on. Because I think you messed up in the first place. But,
That's
I'm
not
not
your
happy
place
about
to call, make that decision. That's the board, the Tyrone
yeah,
Historical
I
Society.
know, we already seen what the board did.
All right, time's up. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and supported to adjourn. Walker.
I'll support that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Everybody.
Sorry I was late, my car battery was dead. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yes.
Never had it. Well, it has to be because it didn't act up. Usually, you know, you get a sign, batteries that you need to replace. Batteries. That's the, oh, you, yeah, either do waterproof E or press the button.